Shettima's embarrassing love for bandits and insurgents. The fears entertained by some Nigerians on the worrisome open romance and tolerance of insurgents and bandits by Vice President Kashim Shettima when President Ahmed Tinubu chose him as his running mate is appearing justified with his recent recommendation on how best to handle these murderous groups. Shettima's antidote for ending the protracted war against insurgency and banditry is the very same reason that the effort of the federal government has been unsuccessful till date. Those who, like Shettima, have continued to compare the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua's amnesty approach to Niger Delta militants to the problem of the Northeast and Northwest are only being smart by half. They are being mischievous and insincere. In the case of Niger Delta militancy, it is the failure of successive governments to address their cry of environmental degradation of their farmlands and waters. What will sympathizers of Boko Haram and bandits say is their grouse against the government and the people of this country. Unfortunately, Shettima is the vice president and in a pivotal position to shape the pattern to be adopted by the Tinubu government in the fight against these murderers. And sadly, too, as vice president, he still holds that patronizing and misguided belief that the federal government should adopt the carrot and stick approach. Just one question for Vice President Shettima and his likes. With all the carrots they have been indulging these killers with, what positive fruits have yielded so far? Recall that on being sworn in May 29, 2015 for a second term as governor of Borno State, Shettima said his administration would lobby the new federal government of President Buhari to consider granting amnesty to the militants. As usual, Shettima, who would never hesitate to blame Goodluck Jonathan as the fall guy, referred to that regime as a hostile federal government, which lived in denial about the savagery of Boko Haram and which also saw the insurgency from the most perverted, narrow and irresponsible prism, that somehow the insurgency had been fueled against it by the political and other elite of this part of Nigeria. Celebrating the coming of Buhari, he also said, "With our votes, we threw out a government at the center which did not work in the national interest and have now voted into power President Muhammadu Buhari." Mr. Shettima said the people of Borno now have the opportunity to put their problems before a listening president who would be willing to assist us with utmost dispatch to accelerate our development. He promised an all-inclusive growth that would focus on reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction, the 3 R's. After 8 years of enjoying the presence of a listening president and a government of their choice, which they all dubiously brought to office, Shettima is still asking for carrots for the bandits, even when they all know that our farms have been taken over by Boko Haram and their bandits' cousins. Where will these endless carrots be sourced from? Meanwhile, Shettima, as the governor of Borno State, sabotaged and frustrated Jonathan's administration in its efforts to curb insecurity in Borno State. He failed to act on a security report and directive to close schools in remote parts of Borno State and relocate students to the more secure capital of Maiduguri to write their GCE examinations, thus creating the opening for the abduction of schoolgirls in Chibok, Borno State. And as though to reward the principal of the school after the abduction, the principal of the school was subsequently appointed as a commissioner in Borno State by Shettima. That is very interesting. Why then? Wait, so the principal that is meant to be in charge of the children the children get kidnapped, and then the principal gets promoted as a commissioner. And that is compensation. How is that compensation? Compensation for what? You can pay his salary for the months he won't be able to work. Now that is compensation, right? Or, free healthcare for the mental trauma and all that he must have gone through, but not to make him a commissioner of the state. Interesting. Well, you see, at the end of the day, right, Shettima, with all these points that have been put before us, it's not giving a positive view of Shettima. And not only Shettima, who now happens to be a vice president, which is a very key role, amongst northern governors, it's sort of been the same thing. When it comes to kidnappings and abductions in the past of students and all that, it's not something that is new, right? It happens consistently and a lot. And amongst governors, in the northern state, we have seen that, talks, discussions, agreements are the solutions that governors and those in key positions would suggest if it's also giving money. I remember, what's his name? Sheikh Gumi. Sheikh Gumi at some point was the spokesperson, right? And he'd go into the actual bushes with guns, with money, with whatever they asked for to have a conversation. And they take pictures together like as if it's some, achievement. So then what do you then say about that? So not only that it's Shettima, right? It's also other governors as well. The sad thing is now Shettima is in a powerful position as the vice president of Nigeria. Put what you think in the comment section below and don't forget to like and subscribe.